obviously one of the biggest hot button issues right now at the national level, of course, is sort of this civil war of sorts that's going on within the GOP and which way are things going to break. At the end of the day, I think whichever way Trump goes is ultimately the way the party is going to go. Now, on the one hand, that's not a good thing. And then on the other hand, it could be a good thing, because if it's allowing you to get rid of the Mitch McConnells of the world and the Liz Cheneys of the world, you got to pick your battles. I don't think Trump is going to be around that long.
I wouldn't hold my breath for that if I were you. From what I understand, his new social media network platform that he was going to set up. It's like a disaster. That not only is it a disaster, it's like a web spread. Like, what do you call it? A flash page? What do you call when you don't even really have a web page?
It's like I know what you're talking about. Yeah. Basically, it's like it's a landing page.
Yeah,
it's like a landing page
and it's just
minutes.
right. And it's like there's no there. And that's his whole network. And it's basically just him posting like a blog message. It's basically a blog. Oh no. This has to happen.
You're totally underestimating what a really, really incredible website
I heard it's pathetic.
It's going to be incredible. And I know you're talking about me tonight.
I heard it's pathetic.
Let me just tell you. Liz
Do you
Cheney,
see that picture of your likeness right there, the poop head?
Well, listen, that is totally not true. I am a little orange, but I'm not brown. Don't accuse me of being brown.
No one would ever think of you as brown.
We totally don't like brown. Only when they're voting for me, then I like them a lot. But let me just say, Liz Cheney, really terrible person. She's a total warmonger. She's just like her evil father, who's somehow still alive. But I got
that's because he's like immortal, and he has that fake heart. He has like a Robotron heart.
No, he's totally immortal, and I've got to speak to him, because wherever he's getting his hearts from, I'm going to have to get hearts from the same place.
He's an android.
Oh, he's an android, total android. Really, really incredible how he keeps living. But Liz Cheney, we're kicking her out of the party. It's my party, and I'll cry if I want to, and I cry all the time, and I always get my way. So we're going to get rid of Liz Cheney. And we're going to put Elise Stefanik in charge. And you know why we're putting her in charge? Because she's a beautiful lady, and I like beautiful women. Liz Cheney's an ugly lady. Totally don't like looking at her. I can have a beautiful lady to look at all the time. Listen to what I have to say. So we're getting rid of Liz Cheney, and that'll be it. I just wanted to say hello from Mar-a-Lago. I'm not that far away. I managed to come over here in my carriage. Hope you guys enjoy.
So that is my Trump. I hope you guys enjoyed. But with that said, it is a civil war of sorts, and it's not going to end well for Liz Cheney from the standpoint of, what is she going to do? Apparently, she's not even campaigning. She's already prepared for the inevitable that somebody's going to come along and run for the one congressional seat in the state of Wyoming and take it over. And, they're already discussing her preparations to become, whether it's CNN analyst or whatever it is that she's ultimately going to do. So we'll see. I think, again,
can I say something about Wyoming?
It's a beautiful state.
Well, it is a beautiful state. I'm trying to think if I've ever officially been there. I've been really close to the border. I went to Boulder, and we would go camping up in the area. It's around this thing called like the Poudre River, and it's near there, but I don't think I've ever crossed over. But when we ran our campaign, we got contributions from every single state in the country. Except Wyoming. And I honestly thought it was Dick Cheney related. I'm thinking, well, I could get that. I mean, I'm definitely have not been like, president in the Dick Cheney fan club in my lifetime. I'm pretty sure he was around back in the days when I was writing snail mail. I wrote some pretty offensive things to people before. I used to send letters.
He is.
I can't say what I may have written to him.
He's the biggest war criminal walking free
disgusting.
Today. There's no question that he is
disgusting.
And look, my opinion about banning Trump from social media is very simple. I don't agree with it. I think it sets horrific precedents, especially for our constitutional rights, whether you like Trump or not, whether you think he is akin to a dictator, whether you think he's liable for what happened on January 6th at the Capitol. The bottom line is he has a massive following, and this is not going to end well. Why? Because not Governor DeSantis. This is me talking. This is me looking many years ahead.
He's getting very prophetic about
I really think that if big tech censorship does not get curtailed in some capacity by the Democratic side, you are allowing President DeSantis to happen right now.
Let me say this, and anybody who ever watches me knows I'm pretty much a First Amendment absolutist. I am completely 100% opposed to banning Trump from any platform. I don't mind with specific posts being removed if they violate your standards. I understand that, but banning people from platforms is not okay. In any way, shape, or form, it's not okay. I don't care who it is. So that being said, the fact that Ron DeSantis, governor of Florida, is pushing this legislation to fine social media platforms who ban people, as much as that's authoritative and, you know, people are going to say it's not even something he can do.
Yeah.
I like it. Good. Fine them. I'd love Facebook to be fined for banning Trump. I think that they should have to pay for violating our speech.
If you're going to have, if Trump is going to come back, you set parameters that he has to abide by.
Yes,
and if he violates them, then you kick him off. But he has to have an opportunity.
And it's not a permanent thing
not
either.
At all. Apparently they recess, I guess, in like 6 months.
No,
or whatever
it should never be even this much permanent. You want to ban someone for a couple of weeks as a slap on the wrist, whatever, and you're, you know, if that makes you feel good, fine.
We were just at a launch for our friend Sheila McCormick, who is running for the open congressional seat of the late Alcee Hastings, Congressional District 20 here in South Florida. And one of the things that was being discussed in the room is this idea about banning things. What is the history lesson we have learned when you ban things in the United States? Look no further than a prohibition. If you ban something, it is only going to create even more interest in sans issue. So by banning Trump, you are opening, you know, everyone always said, and a lot of people have been saying it for a few years, if you don't deliver for the working people of this country, you're going to get a worse Trump in 2024.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. And my concern is Rick Scott. Well, you think Ron DeSantis?
No, I don't agree. I don't think Rick Scott's palatable, though. That's the problem. But I do think that Ron DeSantis is that guy.
We'll see.
I do.
We'll see.
And I think the legislation he's putting out now, you know, it's crazy.
I actually support it. I hope I agree. If Florida wants to start banning social media, you know, platforms,
we're not violent here. We are nonviolent resistors. But with that said, I don't
be violent. I'm a lover, not a fighter.
I do think that this is going to have sort of like the boomerang effect. You may, in the short term, have people very happy about the fact that Trump is no longer on the platform. But in the long run, without there being certain guidelines that he would have to follow. If he breaks the guidelines, then you could directly point to them and say, listen, we gave him an opportunity, he blew it, and that's it. And it's no different than anybody else who would be going on there and inciting really bad things.
But what I want to make very clear to people is that your feelings about what someone says, how that makes you feel, does it hurt your feelings? Does it offend you? Does it make you worried? Does it make you like all those things? Your feelings about what somebody says are completely irrelevant. And this is a very big First Amendment issue. I think people get very caught up in, oh, he offended me. He's scary. He's this, he's that. It's all fun and games till it starts happening to the people that you do like.
That's correct.
And so there cannot be this, you jump on the bandwagon of anything that is deplatforming. It is not smart. We are going to end up in a really bad way. We're already in a kind of a bad way with censorship.
I agree.
And it's just, we cannot have this. And
we always have to look ahead to what the long-term ramifications would be. In the short term, you may like what you're seeing, but in the long run, you're not going to like it. And that's what we're trying to avoid.
And I think people need to understand
this is not an endorsement of Trump. Don't mistake that as what that is.
He's disgusting.
He is.
I also wasn't against Alex Jones being deplatformed, and he's a total buffoon.
But again, come with instructions, so to speak. So with that said, I want to, for a moment, look, Joe Biden's been a mixed bag as president. I know that that's pretty much what everybody would have expected. I really want to believe in my heart that Bernie, to some degree, has his ear on some of the more progressive issues. But I would say of all the issues, obviously, recently, he has been, they initially were not going to do it, but with public pressure being a good thing, it looks like they are going to skip the big pharma patent and they are going to allow the vaccine
Not exactly.
formula. Well, we'll see what ends up happening.
That's not exactly what he did. He did not agree to what they were saying. He's agreeing to
Well, we got to keep the pressure on. So let's not jump the shark.
I'm just saying, well, no, but I'm also not jumping up and down for joy yet because he is not
you have to show your hand and people have to know exactly where you stand.
I'll believe it when I see it.
I agree. But the thing that he has done, which I think needs to be complimented and lauded if it actually comes through, is whether or not he does do a full withdrawal out of Afghanistan. I can still remember when we went in, and that's 20 years. That's a long time. But unfortunately, somebody who does not want to leave the political scene.
She just won't go away.
And even if she doesn't want to leave, whatever she's bringing is not good.
She's like Glenn Close in the bathtub scene at the end of Fatal Attraction.
That's
she
extreme.
Just will not go away.
Now,
no,
listen,
she just won't go.
I have no doubt that there are very possibly Hillary Clinton supporters on this live stream right now. But I just have to say, the idea that you basically you haven't been in the public eye in a while, and this is what you're going to come out and talk about is we have to stay in Afghanistan. This is what forever.
Till when?
This is for what forever war looks like, and what and let's just assume that she has some idea. Well, we can't leave. Well, then what does leaving look like?
Well,
exactly?
right. That's the thing. What's your goal? What's your end goal? What's
Exactly.
your strategy? What's your exit plan? What does victory look like? And
how
they
many
have
more,
no answer.
And how many more lives are you willing to sacrifice for this war that this isn't a war?
And
this
by the way,
is-
pulling troops out of Afghanistan doesn't mean we stop bombing them.
Of course. And again, what's interesting, and for those of you who watch Secular Talk, highly recommended show, Kyle Kalinske on YouTube.
Mhm.
You know, the one thing that he did talk about is how Al-Qaeda, or the Taliban, excuse me, the Taliban now has more control
Yeah.
over Syria than they did prior to when we came in.
That's been the case for about the past 10 years.
Yes.
So
it
that's
really
been
makes you wonder-
been for the past like 10 years that we've been there. That has been where the Taliban is way past where it was when we first went there.
No, and that is absolutely correct. And again, I say this with all due respect to Secretary Clinton and anyone else who has an opinion about whether or not we should stay in Afghanistan. Very simple. Unless you are a soldier who is willing to stand on the front line and die for this country, I really don't want your opinion or need to hear your opinion about war. I just don't. Because anyone who thinks that they have the authority to tell other people to go die for something that they're not willing to put their lives on the line for, it kind of shows a certain level of cowardice.
Well, she's just, I mean, she's just always been a huge war hawk. She's always been a big supporter of war. She hasn't
Correct.
had a war she didn't like. She supports increased military budgets. She's the one we came, we saw, we killed him, and like thought it was hilarious.
What was this?
She's a total war hawk.
Well, listen, you know, who sang "Unfortunate Son"? Why am I blanking?
Creedence
Creedence Clearwater
Revival.
Revival. Why could I not remember? I like that band, but they sang about the fact that I am not a senator's son. It's a lot easier to say that I want war when I know that I'm not going there. So we really need to have an anti-war movement, and I do believe a labor movement is akin to an anti-war movement, because so much of
people's
our
movement.
well, so much of our economy is entrenched in the military, and just as much as it is in, you know, the pharmaceutical and private insurance industry. So that to me is, you know, it's a done deal as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, and so rounding
But
out our stories tonight.
And right before we bring on Tank, we have one final story that we do want to mention, which is very important. And
Very important.
does not get talked about enough. Now, I know a lot of people like to look at the big bad politicians that are out there, like the Trumps of the world and the DeSantises of the world. I can assure you, they are nothing compared to the people who really run the show. And Bill Gates happens to be one of those people. Now, his divorce is going to be very interesting, because I wonder if he is going to try to settle with Melinda as quickly as possible to avoid having any of the things about him come out on, you know, court TV or whatever.
Here's my prediction. This is my prediction, okay? That the two of them have already worked it out, discussed it. They still work together on their foundation.
Probably.
And all of this is going to be just a matter of paperwork. These are people that are grown-ups, and they're very concerned with money and power. So they're not going to do anything that's going to expose them, jeopardize, and not just because they have 3 children together, but that certainly adds to it. I think this is going to be very quiet, very amicable, and I think we're not going to really know much, except it might expose assets. So that could be interesting.
Yeah, no, I think that the thing about...
But I don't think it's going to be ugly. I think that they've already, before they announced they were getting divorced, they've already had it all worked out, and their lawyers have signed, and everything is done. Like,
everybody's got to be quiet.
Well,
you know, that's like
everybody
the whole
should.
idea.
It's their personal life. It's none of our business.
To even understand just how deep this goes when it comes to somebody like Bill Gates, knowing that he has 225 acres of farmland. He owns 250,000 acres of farmland in the United States. To even understand how serious that is.
And I really think that that's a drop in the bucket compared to worldwide.
Well, considering how much land he owns in Africa, among other places.
That's the thing for me, is that he's been sort of like his own little imperialist colonizer the Gates Foundation has been like basically a colonizing entity for the past 20, 30 years. And that is where power happens, when you infiltrate cities through their financial, social, economic, and all their structures.
Yep.
That's real power. And they've been working in Africa for decades.
Yeah.
So
I think that it's, you know, again, we are at a time where, and this is a great segue to bringing Tank on the show, because if you think about it, the truth is, when you have oligarchs like Bill Gates that are doing what they're doing, it's very easy for them to get away with it when we are such a divided nation.
Yes.
And when we're divided and we're not focusing on the things that are very important, then it becomes a very serious problem when it comes to actually fighting back against these oligarchic forces that we really need to curtail, because things are getting very, very serious now. And so having a message, we get some really funny people to come on our show. We do.
Thanks for watching. If you want to support our mission to transform politics into service, please like this video, subscribe, follow us on social media, and consider joining our Patreon, where you'll get early access to our interviews as well as other exclusive content. Links are in the description. Peace out.